Well, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Crotchety. I can't even say it today. I'm so excited. The Crotchety Old Men Podcast. I am Gary Smith, one of the co-hosts, and with me today is all the crew right here, live and in living color. PC.
Hey, what's
Yes.
up? What's up?
Oh man, you know how we say it in Detroit. What up, doe?
What up, dope?
All right. My main man and chief host right here is George Cromley, Mr. Cromley.
What up, Smitty? What up, PC?
Hey, what up, George?
Yeah, man, we're all excited today because we're going to talk about a topic today that has certainly exploded exponentially. And without any further ado, I'm just going to kind of spill the bean and tell you what we're going to talk about today. And the topic of our podcast today is sports betting. How many gamblers we got out there?
None right here.
Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Go ahead and raise your hand. It's all right. We're not going to tell on anybody.
Life is a gamble, but you know you got to play the game to win. So anyway, we wanted to talk about opening up, talk about the sports betting phenomenon, if you will, and what has made this shift possible, if you will, considering that not too long ago, gambling periods, particularly in sports, man, was illegal in most states, right? But now media has kind of like transformed this whole industry from a position of entertainment to gambling. And so I think it's changing somewhat of the public's perception of it. It used to be something somewhat of a taboo, but now certainly with your younger generation of things, they look at gambling far different than we did, you know, coming up and growing up. And so to them, it's just another video game. So, all right, I've opened up the door. Let's go.
Yes, Smitty. It looks like it was back in 2018 where the courts struck down the ability for gambling not to be, housed in all over the United States. So it's been since 2018 that you've seen this explosion of sports gambling. So this is probably $148 billion industry as measured in 2024. So I'm sure it's probably bigger than that now. And it's interesting, how it's kind of taken over. One of the things that gets me, and, when you're watching a sports game, you got, on the side of the screen, at the bottom of the screen, what the odds are. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's pretty annoying. I guess for those, it says between 20 and 30% of U.S. adults gamble right now. But the thing that concerns me more so than anything else, it's our young adults, and that's a phenomenon that I'm not really sure, why, young people are doing so much gambling. You guys got any thought on that?
Well, I think it's entertainment. And young people are awfully involved in whatever entertainment might be for them. So when they get on the internet, when they get on the social media platforms and whatever, the social media platforms are promoting gambling in various ways, sports betting and whatever. So if you're prone to being entertained as these young people are, and not so much like us when we were coming up, I think there's more of a penchant for them to gamble the way they're gambling and making sports betting what it is.
Well, you gentlemen are both right in your own respective narratives, but I think in addition to that, when you see celebrities and athletes endorsing gambling, I mean, you nowadays you got your major athletes and all these celebrities and stuff. I mean, from Jamie Foxx to LeBron James and all those in between, they're making it like it's cool or it's the thing to do. And we as humans, we have this thing about association with status, association with being seen and heard and all that sort of stuff. So when you couple that in, it looks like, okay, well, hey, they're talking about, I mean, these things were unheard of a decade ago. I mean,
right.
you didn't hear about somebody you didn't see them, much less hear them talking about an app, FanDuel, and all this other stuff, especially coming from athletes. So when you have athletes that are promoting, and you got the announcers, they're talking about spreads and points and the over under and stuff. Well, whoa, where are we going here? What ever happened to just seeing a game of talented athletes either run, catch, or punt a ball or smack a baseball out of the park? What happened?
Yeah. For me, the word hopelessness comes to mind, and I think that kind of points to the way, people think about society now. And if they really, are in control of what's going on and what they're, as far as their day-to-day life. I mean, because if you think about it, I mean, when you're betting, unlike playing the stock market, it's you're not going to lose it all in one day. It's going to go up and down. There's going to be some ebbs and flows and whatnot. But gambling, it's a one-shot deal. You put it out there and it's gone. Either you make it or you don't. And it's not just the people that are betting. It's also those that are involved in the sports activities, which here again is alarming. Why are you here? You are making millions and millions of dollars a year, yet and still you take time to, promote with other friends, point shaving. I'm going to come out this quarter of the game, and you let all your buddies know, and then y'all can bet on it and make another couple $100,000. So it's just it's rampant and all. It's not just the people that are betting, but it's also the people that are participating.
Well, you make an analogy with the stock market, and while that can be assumed to be some form of betting, I guess it is a form of betting when you're unknowledgeable about what you're so-called betting on. When you buy a stock, you're not betting that the company is going to go up. You're investing in the propensity or the possibility that that company is going to get better by making either better products or producing a better service, and at the same time making a profit. That profit supposedly carries over to you and your stock certificate. And of course, naturally, if you cash that stock certificate in, you bought it at 10, you sell it at 20, you made 100% return. That it has a predictable outcome. Now, if you're betting on whether or not the Los Angeles Lakers are going to win or even be in the NBA Finals against Golden State Warriors, now here we're getting into something that, number one, is humanly supposedly unpredictable. Yet because of mathematical equations, algorithms, and of course the onset of AI and this artificial intelligence, now you're now able to predict things that were otherwise unpredictable based upon the capabilities and the limitations that we had as a society. I think the generational gap, when we talk about why young people ascribe to gambling more so, is because when you look at the apps that have now been produced, coupled with the gaming apps that kids specifically, and some adults even, I see they've got crook in their neck for playing these, I don't know, Candy Castle games or some Candy Crush, whatever the hell it is. And it amazes me, you got adults that's fixated, man, in these freaking games. Okay, what the hell, man? It's like reading fiction. Life in itself has so many exciting and wonderful and vibrant things to take advantage of. And here you are reading about somebody's imagination, some fiction, some make-believe bull crap. But that's a whole nother story. So, but when you look at it, we used to think of gambling and being in a smoky room, somebody smoking cigars, you're passing cards and bam, you're there on the sole purpose of winning some money. So now with sports, here it is, young people may see it just as another app. There's no difference between fantasy football and actually betting on whether or not Saquon Barkley is going to drop the ball or what have you. You know what I'm saying? So what drives this perception is what perplexes me. I mean, gambling now has become less of a stigma, and I believe it's due to the different packaging. All right. If you put a different package or a different label on a subject, it's more palatable to the human brain. And so now gambling is not looked upon with the stigma that it once was. And so when it happens like that, it appears to be that it spreads like wildfire. You know, you can't even watch a game now without either the FanDuel ad, or I done got to the point now I can't stand Kevin Hart. Don't have nothing against him personally, but this association with this gambling, and it's constantly in your face. Where does this happen? Where are we headed as it relates to sports? For a lot of people our age, my age and stuff I talk to about sports, it's no longer entertaining anymore.
Right. And George, you and I were talking the other day about the effects of gambling with sports, and the fact that it's not nearly what sports used to be. What do you get? Share with us your thoughts on how it affects the game in particular.
Well, like I said, you know, it's when you look at a game, especially a football game, you know, certain calls you'll see or non-calls you'll see in the first quarter, second quarter.
Right.
You know, but then you'll see the same call, you know, the same handsy kind of activity in the third, or especially the fourth quarter. And all of a sudden you see flags come out, you know, like going back to what Smitty was saying, it's almost like it's predictable. You can kind of tell who they want to win the game. So it's not as free falling as sports has been in the past. And you know, you begin to wonder. And you begin to wonder here again, is this scripted or not? Because, you know, like here again with the, you know, I think it was just 23 schools that were just indicted, you know, for point shaving or, you know, here again. So if it's caught in 23 schools, you know, what's to say it's not other schools aren't participating, just haven't gotten caught yet. So it's not as entertaining for me as it used to be, you know, because you like one of the words Gary was saying, it's predictable, you know, who's going to win. So, and you know, for me, that's not the type of entertainment that I, you know, really want to look at, because you kind of already know, you know, who they want to celebrate, and they want to, you know, keep you on the edge of the chair to make it look like it can go either way. But, you know, at the end of the day, you kind of know already who's going to win. So, you know, for me, it's not fun. But, you know, back to what's the real hook? And like I said, the more that comes to my mind is hopelessness, because, you know, what's the real hook? And you bet all this money on, you know, this particular game. And they've even taken it even further. Now they've got these predictability apps. You can bet on, you know, if it's going to rain. You're going to bet on who the next congressman is. You can bet on, you know, this spoon's going to fall down to the floor. I mean, you know, and these aren't small apps. I mean, this is big stuff. You know, this is really big stuff. You know, you work hard all week and then you go out and spend half your money on betting on something. Then all of a sudden you're broke. So, you know, to me, it's more than just the activity and more than just the phones. There's something else going on, you know, in this world that's, you know, and like Gary was saying, it's marketing, it's in your face, you know, those kind of things. It's like anything else, you know, anything they put in your face like that, everybody wants to associate. This is going to make me cool, you know, so I'm going to bet too. So, yeah, I don't know.
Well, you know what, George, when you say hopelessness, now I think people gamble based on hope that they're going to win something for whatever little money they put in there. Number two is like Gary was saying, you know, Legino, he's figured out from Las Vegas how to take the gambling out of the gambling houses into your own living room and on your own phone. So I think a lot of it has to do with Legino coming up with this packaging and bringing it right to your phone, where you don't even have to go to casinos anymore. It's all over the place. I mean, shoot, I go to gas stations, man. There's a gas station in my neighborhood. A guy, you see these old guys sitting in the gas station all day long, you know, pressing that button. This guy won $17,000 a couple of weeks ago. in that gas station. So I mean, it's to me that gambling is pervasive. I mean, it's in every facet of our lives almost.
Yeah, it's very visible, but here again, let's, what's the why? What's the why?
Oh, well, the why is quite easy, in my opinion. As simple as that, you're looking at to gain for little or no effort. I think
Exactly.
that's the things that attract gamblers to gambling, but more importantly, become addictive. But you can take that same mindset. You have millions of people who get up every Monday morning, or every morning for that matter, going to a job that they don't and most jobs, particularly nowadays, unless they're a professional nature, have a high degree of unpredictability. All right. Because of what I said earlier as it relates to stocks and things of that nature. Stocks, they measure companies' performances. Yet at the same token, when you're in an environment such as we are now, with perceived interest rates being high, and that's nothing but a placebo, interest rates being high, products and services are going through the roof, et cetera, et cetera. Well, when you have those type of things that are somewhat out of your control, more people will, because of the loss aversion mindset that we have, will much rather continue to going on that trek of that job as opposed to taking that risk and either buying or beginning a business for themselves that will give them, first of all, more control, certainly more predictability over their own lives. You have more predictability on how much money you're going to make. You have more predictability on the freedom that you have. You have more predictability on what you want to do next and the decisions that you're going to make. But because of our fear of loss, we'll hold on to that perceptions of security, call that paycheck every 2 weeks or what have you. I'm not saying pros or cons about that because that's not the topic of our subject today. But however, that same mindset kind of like goes out the window when it comes to gambling, because now you're putting your heart, like you said, Joe, you're putting your hard-earned dollars and cents on the table. Okay, betting on an outcome that is totally out of your control. You're not even out there playing. Okay, you have no control, but it's the packaging that makes it feel and give you that warm fuzzy feeling that maybe this time, because they tell you somebody's got to win. Why not you? And so that starts to embed in your brain, and we become almost like zombies to whatever is placed before us. That's why that television is destroying us, because they paint this vision. Oh, you can make $17,000. Shit, all you got to do is buy a scratch off, and bam, you walk out the store. In most, nigger rich. Oh, did I say that word? Yeah, Negro rich vernacular, thinking you a millionaire because you won $17,000 on the scratch off. But what they don't tell us is the other 10, 15, 20,000 people that walked into that same convenience store and put down their little $5 or $10, hoping to win that 17, and they lost.
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of go back to what you were saying as far as, predictability and security, I think that's not necessarily what you're going to get when you start your own business. I think that's what you get more so when you're going to work every day, because every Thursday or every Friday you're going to get this particular paycheck as long as you're there. And and starting your own business, there is risk involved, and like you say, I mean, your paycheck may fluctuate, and there are going to be issues, and you've got to be able to deal with kind of thing. So, do we have a society? That is willing to take those chances? But for me, those are more somewhat calculated chances, because what you're doing and you're more in control of what you're doing. But is that where our society is going? It to me, it's betting is the game of chance. I got a chance to do this, but is it really going to be fulfilled? It's a 50-50. It's like a flip of a coin, So like I said, I when I look at, like I said, back to investing, when we had Joe Barry Carroll on, one of the interesting things he said was, the words he used was preservation. I'm not necessarily investing my clients' money to make them a lot more money. I'm looking at, how do I preserve what they have? And see, like that mindset seems like it's kind of gone out of the window. with folks. They're not even thinking about, what they have and preserving what they have. They're thinking more about, how can I grow this? Like you said, like PC was saying, how can I get this $1 million? How can I get this $1 million hit? Well, how I can do these things. And like I said, I mean, I hate to sound like a broken record, but to me, it sounds like more hopelessness because they don't feel that they're in a position to ever improve the situation they're in right now without putting down that $50 bill on like you say, on a lottery ticket. You should see the people that jump on the lottery gets up to billions of dollars and people just running out to buy these lottery tickets because they, it just takes one ticket, to get their chance to improve their life. That's the only way they can improve their life. But it's an interesting fact right now, the stage of where we live and what's being created around us. Like you say, television, is putting so much in our lives and in our eyes that we kind of lose sight on what the world is really about. And like you said, what really makes us happy. 20 to 30% of US adults gambling is a lot of people. I think that the 70% that aren't, that's a good thing. But those numbers will probably climb.
If it kept in the range of entertainment, there's nothing materially wrong with gambling. It's a game of chance.
Right.
Period. It becomes wrong when you use it as a means of life. I think Paul said it earlier, and maybe George, you may have alluded to it, corruption. And, we always hear that word corruption, and I think many times, more often than not, is used in the wrong sense. And that corruption follows money. Okay. There's corruption in stocks. There's corruption in business. There's corruption in politics. There's corruption in gambling. So there's going to be corruption in no matter what facet of life, you choose to engage in. I don't think that's even the worthy of discussion because it is what it is. It's no different than the sun's going to shine. Okay. But aside from the corruption piece, gambling is and will be a part of our society moving forward. Unless your mind has been expanded, it won't go back to its original form. So it's here. What has to happen now is the education on the perils of it, the consequences. Most people don't look at the consequences behind spending your rent money to gamble, and then once you get in that deep hole, it's been said that if you find yourself in a hole, first thing to do is stop digging, right? But a person, but a gambler, they don't see that philosophy because they figure, oh man, if I make this bet, I can make up and pay all other people that I borrowed money from, and I'll be whole. And we all know of people or heard stories where that doggone not or it didn't. So here at the Crotchety Old Men podcast, we throw stuff up against the wall, poke in holes in it, what have you, and then we'll come back and see what's the positive or what's the solution, if there is one, to this what's becoming a malign illness within our society, and especially folks who can less afford to gamble. We're talking about working folk, poor people, wealthy people. You got them out there that's gambling, but they showing up doing it for fun. If you're making $2, $3, $4, $5 million a month, what the hell is a $200,000 bet on whether or not George is going to hit the damn golf ball? Okay, it's nothing to them. But if you're only making $20 an hour, trying to get that magic ball to roll or what have you, and that, man, you're on a slippery slope. So,
and you know what, Gary, you mentioned a very good point that we haven't even touched on in our discussion yet, and that's programmers' ability to tap into people's addictive nature.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of what has been going on electronically with this new technology that we have here that's being offered, I think a lot of the packaging, a lot of the way it's being presented to us taps into our addictive nature. And some folks have more addictive nature than others. Some addictive natures with some people are clinical. And so the sports betting taps into this. And people go hard wild over it. Like you were saying, George, it gets up to $200 billion, and folks are running and timing, setting their watches and whatnot. So I got to go down here to the store to get this damn lottery ticket. You know what I mean? But I think it's our penchant for our addictive nature. And as far as the solution goes, I think one has to go into one's self to see what kind of penchants that they have that can be corrected, in my opinion.
Well, I think it goes back to what Smitty was saying, corruption. I think that is the issue, corruption. I mean, corruption grows out of this. It's different. If I can look at a football, basketball game, baseball game, and I can sit there as a fan and not know what the end of the game is going to be, and even placing a bet on that. But if one of the players, the first baseman, has already been paid off, or the umpire has already been paid off, or, something that's going to influence the outcome of that game makes it corrupt, that's what's wrong. That's where we're going. Like I said, you got coaches on trial, indicted. You got players involved, indicted. You got teams. So that's what's wrong with it. If it was a fair game, then it would be fine. But if it's not fair, then that's the problem.
It ain't fair. It ain't fair, George, because you think about the DNA of America. The DNA of America was corrupt. It was corrupt when these folk came here and set up the system the way the system is set up. It's all in the DNA. It's all corrupt.
Well, look, if you want to, first of all, fair, you're only going to find fair at the circus. Okay. There is no fairness, we've been misled.
I disagree with that, Schmitty, because if I'm playing in a local city league, or even, I'm coaching a high school basketball game, there is fairness. I think there's more fairness in that than watching, like you say, the Lakers play Kansas, because you're involved with that intimately. Your players, and it could happen, but the chances are that happen are less than here again, these things that you see on TV, all these sports, the professional sports. That's what I'm talking about. There is fairness in sports still.
I'll look at it.
You got to figure out what level it is.
Depending on what level you're talking
That's
about.
what I just said. It depends on what level it is.
Well, okay, let's use the elementary level. I'm a basketball coach. Okay, and the average 12-year-old is no more than 6'2", let's say. Okay, 6'3" at the max. But I got a 12-year-old that's 6'10", still 12. Okay, and the rule says that anybody over 12 cannot play in this league. But here I come with my 6'10", 12-year-old, and all the rest of y'all is 5'8", 5'9", 5'2", and then you got your big girl or boy is 6'3". Is it still fair?
If they meet the age requirement, it's fair.
All right then. Well, you're one of the few that's going to say it's fair.
What do you know that this parents are
going to be a bunch of folks in that stadium say, "Wait a minute, that girl or boy need to be in college, huh? That they no way they're 12 years old. We're gonna go through all this rigmarole. That ain't what they call it. That ain't fair. All they do is
they need to stop sucking on that Similac and Enfamil. At 6'10" and 12 years old, got a problem.
Well, my analogy may be out the box, but the theory is still real. Fair.
No,
I disagree with that.
Actually, you bring another
because
element into the game, Gary. Right, the age requirement. He might deal with the age requirement, but the height requirement and the skill might be a totally different thing. The question remains: is it fair or not?
To that DIE stuff and all this other stuff that we've all have experienced or seen in our lifetime. Okay, about fairness. All right, and so that's why I made the statement that I made. All right, if we always used about the thing about what's fair and what's unfair. Now you're going to also introduce favoritism, nepotism, and all those
and crutches,
and that too. What's supposed to have been a cane ends up being a crutch. All right, and I use that analogy with SNAP programs, welfare, and all kind of stuff. But we're not here for that today. So in all fairness, all right, what we want to do is position ourselves to win. And when I'm talking about position ourselves to win, the gambling game of life, so many of us as human beings are held back because of the aversion to loss. And I believe that the reason that gambling has taken such a stronghold on our society, because most of us, not all of us, but the majority of us are more concerned about losing than we are about the possibility of winning.
Bam.
And that
Bingo.
there is the problem.
Oh,
So we like to say on the
I'm not sure where that part of the conversation goes. I mean, that was, we were talking about
gambling is a decision, right? You're going to either win or lose. Most people won't take a chance on switching jobs, even, much less. And I'm not here to promote or deny about starting a business. Hell no. Any business, most businesses that start fail. There's no rhyme or reason behind that, but they do. And well, the reason, because most people don't know what the hell they're doing, they start one. That's why it's been proposed. And of course, we see this happening about buying one, because if you buy a business, it's already producing capital. I'm gonna stop right there with that subject. But the risk is certainly reduced a hell of a lot if you go out and buy a business that already has a market, already has customers, and already has cash flow. You don't have to be a brainiac from Harvard to realize that one. All right. It takes the fairness game out of that. And you have a higher potential to have more control over your destiny than it is at going to some job that you do not like, or working with people that you don't like. And there's a ceiling of how much money. Okay. Well, I mean, you can disagree, just like I'm sure there's probably other people that are going to disagree with me, but facts are facts. You can argue with Gary Smith and disagree with Gary, but look at the facts. I only talk about facts. I don't talk about opinions. These are facts, my friend. And you can go to any book, any expert, and they will verify these facts, because you know what? That's where I got them from.
I mean, what you're saying that there's more security in going out here and buying.
No, you said security. I never said security. I noticed when you play this video.
Okay, let me back up.
Security.
Yeah, both can't talk at the same time. Okay.
But correct.
You're saying that there's more chance. Is that a better word?
Go ahead.
Well, it's a different word.
It's totally different. If you listen to this, and
there's a better chance of you being
security. But go ahead.
There's a better chance of you being. I didn't think my thought. Yeah, there's more chance of you being.
Oh, George, spit it out, brother. Spit it out, baby.
You guys keep cutting me out. Okay,
that's not fair. Come on.
There's a better chance of you being more successful by buying an existing business, as opposed to going in and punching a clock in a day and a job that you don't like and getting a paycheck.
I said there's a better chance of being successful buying a successful business than there is starting one. That's what I said. There's far more risk in starting a business.
Well, yeah, I'll agree with that.
All right, then. I never said that. But
you threw in as far as the people punching the clock and not liking the job that they have.
Yeah, you'll probably have a better chance of success if you at least took a chance to go out and start your own company or buy one. Yes, that is true. There's a strong possibility. Because hell, as long as you go into somebody else's business, only decision you making, my friend, is where you're going to park your car. You don't have no choice about when to get sick. You got 12 days to get sick. All right. If you want to get paid, I'm going to give you 2 weeks off if you want to have a break. All right. So you don't make any decisions. So now if you don't care about that, then no problem. You're going to be over here with this other group of people, especially if you're in a perfunctory position where you're doing redundant tasks day in and day out, you're going to be replaced. So unless and until you are in a decision-making position, then maybe you have some longevity called retirement. But let's not get it twisted, man. Come on. This whole economy is built on businesses. Period. It's not built on employment. I mean, oh, come on now. Facts. I'm just talking facts. That's all. Security. If a person's looking for security, then I don't know. I mean, if security is what a person's main ambition is, then perhaps a nice cushy job somewhere is for them, because buying or even starting a business is not for everyone by no means. Oh, no means. It's tough. That shit ain't easy. It's hard. Very. And the odds are stacked up against you, specifically if you go out here trying to start your own. It doesn't make it a guarantee if you go out here and buy one that's successful, because once the seats change and the leadership changes, that successful business could go down in a heartbeat. So if security is what you're looking for, gambling ain't it either. But if it's possibility that you're looking for,
Right.
and there's a word to say all things are possible through Christ who strengthens me, then hey, I'm going for possibility all day long.
And that's where the gambling is set up. That's how gambling is set up. It's giving you some possibilities that you probably would not otherwise have.
Yeah.
You know, by going to your 9 to 5. And that's the play.
Well, I mean, it's like I said earlier, is to me, it's hopelessness because of the fact that most individuals, and I use that term loosely, but will rather go out here and gamble as opposed to taking Gary's road and going out here and finding a business, finding some happiness, finding some security in a business that they can start and have more control of it. Because you're right, that is, you know, America was built on business. It has to be. So yeah, I mean, I get that. But, you know, taking it back to our original topic of gambling and the why of that, like I said, I think it's hopelessness because they're not seeing past, you know, that TV or whatever that celebrity is saying, you know, make your money, get your security right here by buying this ticket or betting on this game, as opposed to taking that same effort, energy, and going out here and looking and finding that cleaners down the street that's closing up, that guy's ready to retire in, or you know, the paint store that, you know, he's had for 40 years and he's ready to, and he doesn't have a, you know, a family that wants to take it over. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely alternatives, and that's where we need to be looking. You know, that's why we've been successful, because we've looked at other alternatives. You know, yeah, when I was a teenager, you know, I was Friday night poker game. You know, I mean, yeah, I did Friday night poker game. I take my paycheck. I was wondering when you would go down the street and we.
I was wondering when you would open that up, Mr. Crumbly.
You know, we sit down and we play poker. But check this out. Check this out. I found out very quickly that when you lose that money that you worked very, very hard for, like the job or don't like the job, it is not a fun feeling.
It is.
Okay, so let's dial back a bit. Let's dial back a minute. What got you to sit down to the table in the first place?
What do you mean? What got me? Just because my friends.
What I just said. What got you to sit down at the gambling table in the first place?
My friends were doing it. It was
okay. Exactly. Right.
Yeah, my friend, they worked at, you know, just like I did, and this, you know, some older, some the same age, and they did. So yeah, it's the same thing what you see on TV. Why are they gambling? Because they see it. Yeah, I mean, it's the same motivation. Yeah. But I'm talking more so about the feeling, and get to flip it back to bring it home what Smitty was talking about. I found out a long time ago, it's easier for me to go out here and take that same amount of money and buy me, you know, 4 or 5 different houses. Yeah, it's going to be some ups and downs. Yeah, it's going to be some painted walls. Yeah, it's going to be some cracked ceilings, roofs that need to be done. But I feel like I have more control over that, and I got that money coming in every month. So yeah,
touchdown.
But yeah, I mean, and I agree. But you know, like I said, taking it back home to this gambling, you know, I think it's the hopelessness of America that our government is creating, and people advertising and marketing, everybody's creating that the world's coming to an end, is doom and gloom, and there is no hope, and there's no outlet for you to do, which I disagree with it. You know, I disagree with that. I think there's a lot of there's a big bright side to it. If you use that same effort and energy that you're going to go out here to run and buy a lottery ticket, to go out and buy some kind of business or start a business, buy a business, however you get into it, that's going to give you more security and be more stable for your family.
Amen. Hey man, you couldn't have wrapped it up any better than I did.
Sure enough, sure good.
That brought it all home right there. All right. I hope you heard it. You heard it first here at the Crotchety Old Men podcast. Where we just rip it up, tear it up, and put it back together again. So, PC, are you the man with the plan today, or do I have to go dig in my archive and come up with a quote?
I got something here that's kind of interesting that kind of goes toward what we were talking about. And the title of it is Your Energy. It is worth more than any material matter. Your energy is your currency in the world and in the universe. The greatest gifts you give to another is your thoughts, your intentions, and your energetic love. Show your love.
Hey, man.
Right. Hey, and as we always say on the Crotchety Old Man, if you didn't know,
Now you know.
all right, take care, be blessed.
All right.
Peace.
Boy, that was a nice, energetic